He left you $847 million. She stared at the man in the tailored suit standing in her doorway. Briefcase, lawyer's calm, eyes that knew things she didn't. Nairi hadn't slept, hadn't eaten. She'd spent 3 days searching hospitals, shelters, corners of Knoxville where the forgotten disappear. The blind man was gone. And now this stranger was saying his name, Alton Bell Rose, not the harmless old soul who sat on cracked pavement at dawn, not the man whose stories sounded like fever dreams, railroads that vanished, men who bought silence, cities reshaped overnight. No, a billionaire, co-founder of an empire she'd never heard of, and he'd been watching her the whole time. "Why?" she whispered, voice breaking. The man in the suit didn't blink. "Because you were the only one who saw him." But before he could say another word, before Nairi could process the impossibility of it all, he slid a yellowed envelope across her doorframe. Handwritten, shaking, Alton's last words. And inside, a confession that would unravel everything she thought she knew about mercy, power, and what it means to be invisible in a world that only sees wealth. This is a story about a broken girl who fed a broken man. What she didn't know, he wasn't broken at all.
Welcome back, beautiful soul. Before we begin, I want you to know something. You're here for a reason, not by accident, not by algorithm, by divine appointment. What you're about to witness isn't just a story, it's a mirror held up to the part of you that still believes love is the most powerful force on earth. The part that knows we were never meant to walk past each other without seeing, without stopping, without caring. This story will ask you a question you may not be ready to answer. When was the last time you truly saw someone the world had made invisible? Settle in. Breathe. Let your guard down. Because if you're willing to let this story touch you, it just might change the way you move through the world tomorrow morning. Now, let's begin. 6 months before that envelope, before the lawyer, before the impossible name, Nairi Holloway walked the same cracked sidewalk every morning at 5:47 a.m. Knoxville barely breathing, mist hanging low, shops dark, streets empty except for the hum of a distant delivery truck. She carried a brown paper bag, half a biscuit, lukewarm coffee in a styrofoam cup, and moved like someone who'd learned not to be seen. Her sneakers were split at the seams. Duct tape held the left sole together. She checked her phone, $3 left until Friday. Then she saw him. Same spot, same posture. The old man sat against the brick wall of a boarded-up diner, head tilted back like he was listening to something no one else could hear.
Blind. She knew because his eyes never followed her, never tracked movement, just felt. "Morning, sir," she said softly, kneeling. He smiled without looking. "You came back." She always did. But as she handed him the cup, his fingers brushed hers, and he whispered something that made her freeze. "They're watching you now, child, because of me." Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, if you walked past that corner tomorrow morning, would you stop, or would you be too busy, too late, too afraid? The world trains us to look away from what makes us uncomfortable. But what if the very person we're walking past is the one sent to teach us what it means to be human? If that question stirs something in you, something that refuses to stay quiet,
then maybe this story was meant to find you today. Don't let it slip away. Subscribe. Not because I asked, but because your soul recognized something true. Nairi pulled her hand back slowly. What do you mean, watching me? But Alton just chuckled, low and weathered, like he hadn't said anything strange at all. Over the next 2 weeks, he told her things that didn't make sense. Cities rebuilt in a single year. Railroads that vanished from maps. Men who purchased entire scandals just to bury them. She nodded, smiled gently, figured his mind was drifting.
One morning, a businessman kicked his cup over walking past. "Get a job," he spat. Nairi stood. "He's a person. Show some respect." The man laughed and kept walking. That night, Nairi skipped dinner. Rent was due. Her landlord didn't care about kindness. The next morning, Alton tilted his head toward her like he could see straight through her exhaustion. "Some people disappear on purpose, child," he said quietly. "The dangerous ones don't." And for the first time, Nairi wondered, what if he wasn't confused at all? 3 days later, he was gone. 5:47 a.m., same mist, same street. But the corner was empty, and somehow the silence was louder than his voice had ever been. Nairi waited, missed her bus, checked again at noon. Nothing. She searched everywhere, shelters, street corners, the ER desk where a nurse barely looked up before saying, "We can't give out patient information." On the 4th day, she found his cane, snapped in half, lying in an alley 2 blocks over. Her knees hit the pavement. She'd failed him, let him disappear into a city that didn't care, let him become another invisible loss. That Sunday, she came back anyway, set the coffee down, the biscuit beside it, and whispered into the empty air, "I'm sorry." But what Nairi didn't know was that across town, in a lawyer's office locked behind mahogany doors, her name had just been read aloud from a will worth more than she'd earn in 10 lifetimes.
2 mornings later, someone knocked. 5:47 a.m. Nairi opened the door in yesterday's clothes, eyes swollen from crying. The man in the tailored suit didn't flinch. "Miss Holloway, I'm Benedict Roll. We need to talk about Alton Belrose." Her breath caught. You know where he is?" "He's dead," Benedict said gently, "and he wasn't homeless." Nairi stared. Benedict continued, calm and impossible. "Alton co-founded Belrose and Industries, worth $4.2 billion. He disappeared intentionally, walked away from everything." No, you're lying." Benedict pulled out a yellowed letter. "He wrote about you, not his fortune, not his regrets, just you, the girl who saw him." Nairi's hands shook as she took it. Benedict's voice dropped. "He didn't leave you money, Miss Holloway." He paused. "He left you responsibility." Nairi unfolded the letter with trembling fingers, but the first line stopped her cold. "Nairi, your mother knew exactly who I was." This is the moment where everything shifts, where we realize the people we thought were powerless were actually holding all the keys. Alton didn't need Nairi's help. He was testing her heart. And here's the uncomfortable truth. We're all being tested every single day by the people we ignore, by the suffering we scroll past, by the kindness we choose not to show because it's inconvenient. If you felt that, if you felt the weight of what it means to be responsible for the love you withhold, then you understand why stories like this exist. They're not entertainment, they're mirrors. And if you're brave enough to keep looking, subscribe, because the hardest truths are the ones we need to hear most.
The letter explained everything. Her mother had worked for Alton 30 years ago, not as an employee, but as the woman who convinced him wealth without purpose was just noise. Before she died, she'd made him promise one thing. If you ever forget why you're here, find someone who hasn't. He'd been looking for Nairi her whole life. Benedict slid another document across the table. The Starshine Foundation, $847 million, scholarships for the invisible, rent relief for the forgotten, food programs named after street corners. It's yours to steward, Benedict said, not to spend on yourself. Nairi's hands trembled. I don't want this. He knew you'd say that. That's why he chose you. Months later, Nairi still walked that cracked sidewalk at 5:47 a.m., still left coffee, still left food. The corner stayed empty, but across Knoxville, lights turned on in apartments that should have gone dark. Kids ate breakfast who wouldn't have. And as Nairi turned to leave one morning, she saw it, a brown paper bag, sitting on her doorstep, still warm. No note, no name, just a handwritten message on the side. Now you know how it feels to be seen.
Here's what I need you to understand. This story isn't fiction. It's happening right now, somewhere. A stranger choosing to see another stranger. A small act echoing into eternity. And the question isn't whether these moments matter. The question is whether you will create one. Whether tomorrow morning you'll slow down long enough to notice the invisible. Whether you'll be the person someone remembers when they've forgotten everyone else. If you believe love is the only currency that outlives us, if you believe kindness is the truest form of worship, then let this story mean something. Subscribe, not for me, for the part of you that knows we were never meant to live small, selfish, separate lives. We were meant to see each other and be changed by it.